You ever been so gaslit, so harassed, that even a church turns its back on you not because you're wrong, but because you're right? Because that's exactly what happened when my ex-mother-in-law sent her church friends to verbally assault my teenage daughters in public, so I exposed her darkest secrets. In front of the entire congregation, if you've ever wished you could serve cold, calculated justice to someone hiding behind fake piety and a victim mask hit, that like button, subscribe, and buckle in. This revenge is messy, satisfying, and served on glossy, full-color paper. After my ex-husband died in a car accident last year, thought the worst was behind us. But I underestimated just how far his parents, especially his manipulative, self-righteous mother, were willing to go. My daughters, 17 and 15, already had a strained relationship with them, and how could they not? They were the ones who had uncovered their father's affair. They were the ones who discovered the other family he'd hidden to boys he fathered with his affair partner, a woman who also died in that same crash. His parents, my ex-in-laws, should have been grieving. Instead, they launched a smear campaign to gain custody of my daughters while trying to move into my home. And trust me, we're fighting the custody battle in court. But that second part is over my dead body. I live in a charming little town with a weekend market where locals sell everything from fresh eggs to homemade chocolate. It's one of the few places where my girls can feel like normal teenagers again. My youngest was celebrating her birthday, so I gave her a little spending money and let her wander off while I browsed with her sister. An hour later, I got the call. Her voice trembling, she whispered, "Mom, there are some women yelling at me about Grandma and the boys." My heart dropped. I grabbed my eldest and ran. We found her surrounded, literally encircled by 6 older women wagging fingers, shouting Bible verses, and accusing her of being unchristian for not loving her poor, orphaned baby brothers. They were relentless. They accused her of rejecting God's plan, being disrespectful to her elders, and worst of all, they told her she was ungrateful. For what? Surviving a betrayal? Stepped between them like a lioness guarding her cubs. Told my eldest to grab her sister's things and head to the car. The women turned on me too. You should be ashamed. Disobeying your husband's family? Be judged. God said wives should submit. You're corrupting your daughters with your bitterness. Eventually, the screaming got so loud, market security asked us all to leave. They followed me like a flock of shrieking crows, now muttering about sin and salvation as I buckled my kids into the car. That night, I sat on the edge of my bed, shaking. Not with fear, but fury. How dare they harass my daughter? How dare they weaponize religion? How dare my ex-mill orchestrate this? Turns out this wasn't a spontaneous Bible study gone wrong. I contacted a friend still active in their church. He filled me in apologetically. Apparently, my ex-mill had posted a long, dramatic sob story in the church's private Facebook group. She claimed I had stolen her grandchildren, left her and her husband penniless, and even blamed me for the orphaned boys not living with them. But the most grotesque part, she claimed the affair children were surrogate, twisted the whole betrayal into a tale of me being jealous of having more boys. I could taste bile in my throat reading that. She knew the truth. Everyone did. But she manipulated the churches. Sympathy like a puppeteer pulling strings made of lies. I sat at my kitchen table surrounded by paper, divorce papers, screenshots, emails, photos of my ex cheating, texts between him and the affair partner, messages from his mother mocking my daughters, calling them bastards, blaming them for their father's death. That one broke me. 2 days after the accident, she was already rewriting the past to fit her narrative. You ever hit a point where pain turns into clarity? I knew what I had to do. The next morning, I marched into a print shop and spent hours and more money than I care to admit, printing every piece of damning evidence on beautiful, high-gloss paper, photos, texts, emails. I even included a header on each binder. The truth behind the lies. The real story of ex's name and affair partner's name, the first page. A photo of my ex making out with his mistress in our living room. Under it, I wrote, "Greater than this is not a surrogate." Then I got to work assembling binders H1 looking exactly like the prayer booklets the church uses for hymns. That Sunday, Just before the service started, I dropped them off neatly on the back table. No one checks them. They just pick one up on the way to their pew. Then I left. By Sunday evening, the Facebook group was on fire. People were furious. The words used to describe my ex and his affair partner were so vile, the pastor had to step in and shut the thread down. More importantly, people turned on my ex-and laws. Turns out, this church is weirdly tolerant of many things but cheating. That's their line in the sand, and my binders made it very clear. They didn't just support the cheating. They encouraged it. I got 2 apology letters in the mail, addressed to my daughters, and even an invitation from the pastor to rejoin the church for support and healing. Ironically, they still considered my divorce a failure of faith, but at least they now viewed it as an understandable failure rather than outright rebellion. But the best part? My ex-mill was publicly shunned. People wouldn't talk to her. They wouldn't sit near her during services. She made a dramatic Facebook post about being abandoned by her community and how no one values the elderly anymore. Oh, and she's still under the delusion that her great son would have taken care of her. With what money, I don't know, because I was the breadwinner. One final twist. I found out my ex had secretly made his parents the beneficiaries of his will, not our daughters. But since the divorce wasn't finalized, I had legal access to all the evidence needed to challenge it in court. Let's just say, the truth has a funny way of showing up right when you need it. So what did I get? Not money, not applause, but vindication. My daughters were no longer being hounded by religious zealots. My ex-mil's carefully curated grieving matriarch act exposed. And best of all, the girls got to see that justice isn't always about shouting the loudest, but revealing the truth when it matters most. She played the victim. I handed out the receipts. Sometimes, the people who scream the loudest about morality are the ones hiding the ugliest secrets. Truth doesn't always need a microphone. Sometimes, it just needs a binder. If this story made you want to shout justice, or gave you that sweet taste of revenge, hit that like button and drop your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever seen someone expose this epically? Of course, subscribe for more stories that prove karma has a clipboard, and she's keeping receipts.